根据司法院宪法法庭的判决，死刑是合宪的，并没有违宪。
Support and condemnation. Reactions from home and abroad after Taiwan carries out its first execution in almost 5 years.
America stands with Taiwan.
Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence is making his first trip to Taiwan with a strong message of support.
We are constantly exploring ways to have better relationships with China.
We look at how much U.S. attitudes toward China have changed since the era of the late Jimmy Carter. Plus,
this building is the world's largest structure shaped like a high-heeled shoe. What's it doing in rural Taiwan? We'll tell you later in today's show.
Good evening and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Taiwan's sudden decision to execute its first death row inmate in almost 5 years has attracted widespread condemnation from international rights groups. But local politicians, including Taiwan's president, have been quick to defend the country's use of the death penalty. Reese Ayers reports.
Late into the night of January 16th, at a detention center in Taipei, a rare execution by firing squad. The inmate sentenced to die on death row since 2017 for a double murder and rape committed years earlier. It's the first time Taiwan has carried out an execution in almost 5 years, and is a decision that's attracted widespread international condemnation. In a harshly worded statement, Amnesty International called the execution shocking and cruel, and a huge setback for human rights in Taiwan, saying it violates the constitution and ignores an appeal to stop an execution that was still pending. Even the European Union chimed in, urging Taiwan to immediately apply a de facto moratorium on capital punishment. But lawmakers from across the political spectrum are defending Taiwan's right to exercise the death penalty. The Justice Ministry saying the sentencing followed proper procedure, a claim backed by President Lai Ching-te himself.
根据司法院宪法法庭的判决，死刑是合宪的，并没有违宪。因此，我非常希望社会大众能够支持法务部依法行政。同时，我也要向受害的家属表达慰问之意。
Despite its support among politicians in Taiwan, some opposition lawmakers have taken the execution as an opportunity to get political, with a KMT legislator accusing the ruling party of using capital punishment, which enjoys widespread support among the Taiwanese public too, as a political distraction.
之前他觉得民调上面没有问题的时候，他就不执行死刑，也不让法官判死刑。结果呢，今天民调出问题了，就抓1-2个人出来把他打掉。
Capital punishment has long been a contentious issue here in Taiwan. It was only last September that the country's 36 or so death row inmates brought the subject to the Constitutional Court, who ruled it only partially constitutional, saying that it should only be used in the most serious of cases. And Taiwan has used the death penalty very sparingly in recent years, with only 2 executions during Tsai Ing-wen's 8-year presidency. But with so much public support and this most recent execution, all coming just days after another inmate's death sentence was upheld, it seems capital punishment is still very much an option for Taiwan's Justice Ministry, and all despite repeated calls from rights groups to abolish the practice altogether. Klein Wang, Joseph Wu and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
Israel has signed a deal with Hamas to pause fighting in Gaza after 15 months of war. But the agreement's future is in doubt as political division within the Israeli government threatens to derail the process. Rosie Gueringer reports.
This is the aftermath of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, pounding at least 50 targets in the enclave just hours after a ceasefire deal with Hamas was announced. Over 77 people were killed, days before a long negotiated truce is set to take place.
فجأة انقلب فرحهم إلى حزن. انظر إلى المنطقة هذه كيف صارت. كلهم طلعناهم أشلاء. عندنا أكثر من 18 جثة حاليا تحت الأنقاض بسبب قلة الإمكانيات نعجز عن طلوعهم.
Negotiators in Doha have signed a deal set to begin on the 19th of January. That after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu postponed a cabinet meeting to ratify it, citing Hamas seeking amendments. Claims that Hamas has denied.
وأرجو أن لا يكون أو لا تكون مثل هذه التصريحات من مكتب نتنياهو هي محاولة للتهرب من الالتزام باتفاق وقف إطلاق النار.
But the signing of the deal is not the final step. The Israeli cabinet still needs to approve it, or it could face more delays. Their vote is now set for Saturday the 18th of January, leaving the future of the war hanging in the balance as division emerges within the Israeli government. Benjamin Netanyahu's national security minister and his allies have threatened to quit if the deal he called reckless is pushed through.
אם המלחמה בחמאס תחודש, וזה מה שאמרתי ממש לפני מספר רגעים לראש הממשלה, אם המלחמה תחודש לשם הכרעה ומימוש מטרות המלחמה, אנחנו מבחינתנו נציע לשוב לממשלה.
Their push to halt the agreement, backed by some Israelis, who blocked a road in Jerusalem in protest of the proposed deal. Negotiated with input from Egypt, Qatar and the US, the deal would see the release of 33 Israeli hostages taken to Gaza after Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. Under its terms, many Palestinian prisoners detained by Israel would be returned to Gaza, and aid would be allowed to flow into the Strip. Without their loved ones over the past 15 months of war, the families of Israeli hostages renewed their calls for the government to pass a deal at a rally in Tel Aviv.
And we're really waiting for the the official proof that the deal is signed and we can go on. And on Sunday we will see hostages here in Israel.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he remains optimistic the 6-week ceasefire will go ahead.
I am confident, and I fully expect that implementation will begin, as we said, on Sunday. Look, it's not exactly surprising that in a process and a negotiation that has been this challenging and this fraught, you may get a loose end. We're tying up that loose end as we speak.
Hope shared by many world leaders and jubilant crowds across the globe that welcome the news of the truce. But with political turmoil still unsettled within Israel, there could be further delays to end the fighting in Gaza, leaving the hostages, their families, and embattled Palestinians waiting anxiously with their futures on the line. Ryan Wu and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's defense minister welcomes incoming U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz's statement that he wants to speed up weapons deliveries to the country.
We have over a $20 billion backlog of things that they paid for and that we need to work hard to free up and have them get what they paid for as a deterrent.
Waltz also said that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is looking to strengthen ties with partners in the Asia-Pacific. Taiwan is still waiting to receive fighter jets, tanks, missiles, and other defense equipment from the U.S. Washington is Taipei's biggest weapons supplier, despite the two not having official ties. China's economy grew 5% last year, beating market expectations to meet the government's GDP target for the year. The world's second largest economy expanded by 5.4% in the fourth quarter, outperforming the results seen in the first 3 quarters. Economists say the rebound was the result of Beijing's year-end measures to boost growth. The U.S. Vice President during Donald Trump's first term, Mike Pence, is visiting Taiwan to meet with tech leaders and Taiwan President Lai Ching-te. Chris Gorn was there for Pence's speech and brings us this report.
Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence voiced his strong support for his country's continued support for Taiwan at a speech here in Taipei just days before Donald Trump is set to take office once again. Pence was nominally here as part of an educational exchange event co-hosted by a university from his home state of Indiana. But in his speech, he focused mostly on describing what he called the threats posed to the Pacific region by China and reiterating support for Taiwan.
Here, as I said, on the eve of a new American administration, I stand in Taiwan now to say to my countrymen, for the security and the future of freedom and prosperity for America and all of our allies across the Pacific, America stands with Taiwan.
Pence declined to comment on whether or not he spoke with President-elect Donald Trump about his trip here, But he did say that he supported the U.S. continuing to help Taiwan with its self-defense and the signing of a U.S.-Taiwan trade deal. Now, Pence is reportedly going to meet with Taiwan President Lai Ching-te later, a meeting that Beijing is likely to condemn. Chris Ma and Chris Gorin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
The late former U.S. President Jimmy Carter was responsible for a major diplomatic decision that had long-lasting ramifications for Taiwan. But decades on, with Donald Trump set to take office for a second time, the winds have shifted in U.S. policy. Leslie Liao reports from Washington, D.C.
Here in the United States, flags all across the country are being flown at half-staff in memory of former President Jimmy Carter, who passed away late last month.
We are constantly exploring ways to have better relationships with China.
Carter's administration saw perhaps the most consequential time for Taiwan-U.S. ties. Under Carter, Washington broke official diplomatic ties with the government in Taipei in favor of Beijing. He then revoked a mutual defense treaty between the U.S. and Taiwan as well. Carter did this in hopes of fostering peaceful and strong ties between Washington and Beijing. But nearly 5 decades later, the winds have shifted. The U.S. and China are at odds militarily, diplomatically, and economically. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's incoming administration is expected to get tough on China. Potential incoming Secretary of State Marco Rubio is even calling China the biggest threat to U.S. interests. We've been speaking to a few analysts here in Washington, D.C., who are expecting the incoming administration to use economic means to deter Chinese aggression.
But very clearly, the priority is going to be on China as a rival, and that it is not just military, it's economic as well as it's societal. No surprises with Trump's first term. And what we're seeing potentially in the second, a return, the use of tariffs as an economic tool in negotiation to try a more comprehensive diplomacy.
Caught in the middle of the tug of war between the U.S. and China is Taiwan. Despite no official changes in Washington's relationship with Beijing since Carter's shift in 1979, the U.S. and Taiwan have since built flourishing, unofficial ties that both sides are hoping to strengthen. Leon Lian, Laurel Stewart, and Leslie Liao in Washington, D.C. for TaiwanPlus.
For more updates from the U.S. on Trump's inauguration, stay tuned to TaiwanPlus. Japanese gaming company Nintendo has revealed its next console. Our reporter Sandy Chi went to see what local gaming fans think about the new device.
Gamers are in for a treat. Japanese video game company Nintendo has announced a follow-up to their Switch console. The company first launched its Nintendo Switch in 2017, which has become the most popular console in the world. According to the company, over 146 million units have been sold.
我玩 Switch 已经玩大概4年，今年2025的话，当然就5年了。当然也是因为从小就是玩掌机，任天堂掌机起家的。
On Thursday, Nintendo released a preview video of the new version, the Switch 2. Despite the reveal, some players have some doubts about the new device.
传闻来说是比较弱的，就是这点让我比较担心。网上泄露的它的性能应该是掌机模式略低于 PS4， 然后它的桌机模式差不多就是也是低于 PS4 Pro。
But that's all speculation. Nintendo hasn't released the specs for the console yet. Details, including the pricing, will be announced in early April. Nintendo preview events will be held in cities around the world, allowing people to experience the Switch 2, including here in Taipei. Fu Hong, Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Americans are flocking to download one of China's most popular social media platforms, RedNote, just days before a proposed ban on another Chinese-owned app, TikTok. It's become a rare shared space for Chinese and American internet users, despite concerns over censorship. Cadence Coranta reports.
Xiaohongshu, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for taking me in, me and all my friends. I hope we don't break you.
Just days ahead of a proposed ban on TikTok in the U.S., over 500,000 Americans have flocked to a different Chinese app, Xiaohongshu, or RedNote in English. They call themselves TikTok refugees.
Ni hao, hi everybody. So I'm a TikTok refugee. I literally just got this app like an hour ago.
RedNote is one of China's most popular social media platforms and a go-to search engine for topics like travel, beauty, makeup, and fashion. Many Americans had never heard of it until a few days ago when some content creators on TikTok began downloading the app and telling their followers, with some saying it was out of spite towards the U.S. government for proposing a ban on TikTok over concerns China may use it for spying. That ban will go into effect on January 19th if the app's Chinese parent company does not sell it.
So someone on TikTok suggested that it would be funny if we all went to RedNote, Redbook here, because it's a 100% very much legitimately, definitely a Chinese app, just to prove that we don't care.
With the exodus of TikTok users to RedNote, it quickly became the #1 free app on the U.S. App Store.
The reason why I chose to RedNote is that some of my favorite creators, and not only favorite, but some of the creators where I feel like I can't get content like that anywhere else, said that they were moving to RedNote.
It's become an unexpected opportunity for Chinese and American people to interact organically. Users are asking one another about healthcare systems, work hours, and stereotypes. Some Chinese users are even asking for help on their English homework and offering to give American users Chinese names. Rare positive interactions at a time when tensions between the U.S. and China are high.
Today, what we have is we have regular users that are, for the first time ever, without VPNs and without a lot of, at this stage, curation or moderation. The American ordinary guys and Chinese ordinary guys are talking to each other directly.
And it seems for now, many Chinese users are also viewing these new American users positively.
Hey friends from TikTok, I am Abe from China, and I just want to say it's so amazing to have you here. For so long we haven't really been able to connect or talk to each other like this, but now we finally can, and it feels so special.
It's unclear if these exchanges will be allowed long term. Social media platforms in China are subject to censorship, with private companies held liable if they don't adhere to the rules. Users can also be banned if they don't comply with strict guidelines. For now, RedNote is rushing to hire English-speaking moderators, scrambling to adapt so they can manage the deluge of so-called TikTok refugees. Andy Xue and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
It's been just over 20 years since Thailand's tourist hotspot of Phuket was devastated by the Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. And while the island's community and economy have bounced back in the 2 decades since, residents are now facing a new and growing problem. Jonathan Kaplan reports.
Thailand's Phuket Island, a jewel of the Andaman Sea, known for its white sand beaches, pulsing nightlife, and warm, inviting waters, drawing over 10 million visitors a year. But beneath the surface is a wasteland. The surge of post-pandemic tourism and explosion of development on the island is bringing with it a mounting challenge. Heaps of waste piling up out of the view of tourists. Phuket's economy is dependent on tourism, and visitors keep coming. From construction detritus to consumer plastics and food waste, the garbage just keeps coming, and the island's one trash incinerator is overwhelmed.
การเติบโตของเมืองเนี่ยมันก้าวกระโดดมากกว่าที่ควรจะเป็นเพราะฉะนั้นมันก็เลยอาจจะแปลเป็นวิกฤตทางการจัดการบริหารจัดการขยะในจังหวัดภูเก็ตเองซึ่งตอนนี้เองทางเทศบาลเองก็ต้องรองรับในส่วนของว่าเราพูดในลักษณะของวิกฤต worst case จริงๆว่าเราเองก็ต้องเตรียมพื้นที่ที่จะรองรับให้ได้ 1,400 ถึง 1,500 ตันต่อวันนะครับเพื่อที่จะรองรับไปในอีก 2-3 ปีข้างหน้าจนกว่าเตาเผาขยะใหม่จะสร้างเสร็จ
The small community of Sapan Hin used to have pristine views of rolling hills. Now, residents like Vasana and her 3 children look out upon a growing landfill that is spoiling more than just the scenery.
ชีวิตนอกบ้านไม่มีเลยอยู่แต่ในบ้านบางทีก็ใส่แมสนะมันหมิ่นเวลาหมิ่นเยอะมันเล็ดรอดมาต้องใส่แมสนะต้องเปิดแอร์เปิดเครื่องฟอกอากาศตลอดเวลาเลยค่าไฟนี่ขึ้นสูงมากแต่ละเดือนสูงถึง 6,000 ต่อเดือนใช่เพราะต้องเปิดตลอดเวลาทุกอย่าง
The government and private agencies are scrambling to find solutions. The island's second incinerator will be able to handle up to 500 tons of trash a day, but that's not till late 2026 at the earliest. Another plan is to convert some of the waste into a type of solid fuel. Hotels are promising to cut back on disposable products. In November 2024, the global regulatory body for sustainable tourism made a 5-day assessment of Phuket. They provided guidelines for it to achieve status as a sustainable tourism destination by 2026, but noted some stumbling blocks. Government-registered hotels are on board with waste reduction measures, but they only make up 30% of tourist accommodation.
But the others, not only the safety matters, how to regulate waste management, solid waste management, and other energy, water, the many other things. It's not regulated.
That lack of regulation makes getting control over the problem all the more difficult. The national government wants to see Phuket certified sustainable, a first for Thailand. And local authorities are trying to deal with the trash crisis. But a resolution could be years away. For families like Vasana's living next to an ever-growing landfill, the matter is urgent.
อยากให้ลูกมาวิ่งเล่นข้างนอกอยากให้แบบได้แบบมาสูดอากาศบ้างค่ะลูกไม่ได้ออกมาเลยคนเล็กนี่คลอดมา3 เดือนไม่ได้ออกมาข้างนอกเลยไม่ได้ออกมาหน้าบ้านเลยขึ้นรถก็ออกไปข้างนอกหมู่บ้านเลยไม่ได้มานั่งอยู่ตรงนี้เลย
For now, one thing is certain. The deluge of tourists to Phuket will not let up. And with them, more money, more development, and more garbage. Kama Xu and Jonathan Kaplan for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is home to the world's tallest structure that's shaped like a high-heel shoe. What's it doing in a rural seaside community? Andrew Ryan finds out today in part 5 of our series, Where's the Chiayi County Chief Taking Us?
Our trip to Chiayi County is nearing the end. And just when I think I've seen it all, they serve up the world's largest high-heeled shoe. But before we find out what it's doing in southern Taiwan, I've got a date with some milkfish. Chiayi County has one of the shortest coastlines in all of Taiwan, and yet it's known for its seafood, like oysters, and over 60% of the nation's milkfish products come from Chiayi. These days, farms like this one are catching tourists too, with the lure of immersive aquaculture experiences. And by immersive, I mean actually getting in the water up to your waist.
其实它跳起来还蛮大力的哈。
对啊，因为它受到惊吓会乱冲刺，它本身它游速就很快。哦，对，它有时候尤其就是我们讲的萨巴提头啊，顶空空的，所以有时候它就跳上来的时候要小心不要被撞到这个脑部哦，或者是说重要部位。
会怎么样吗？
对，就会脑震荡。
Oh no！
有可能会脑震荡。
29-year-old Zhang Boru returned to his hometown of Dongshi on the Chiayi coast 6 years ago. It's a big change for him after getting a law degree. In recent years, more and more young people like Zhang have begun running eco-friendly fish farms, and they're looking to offer more than just fish.
我们维持绿水、绿食、绿生活的这样子一个精神，那就是做导览解说也好，然后也会做餐桌体验，然后也会宣扬在地文化，跟附近村落做结合，然后做体验。
Also on the itinerary, learning how to transform freshly caught milkfish into overnight dried fish. And more importantly, how to enjoy it.
所以为什么有人传统说，哎，石目怎么那么多刺啊？很多幼刺哦，运气都在运气哦。其实不是，其实因为你把它切断，所以它可能就长这样子。那万一你从中间把它切断，你可能这一节就留在前面。所以怎么好像石目越吃越多根刺？那其实石目就222根了，其实没有啊。
That's amazing. Just by drying the fish, it makes it much meatier, almost like chicken. The best part about it is it's super fresh.
From pond to plate, experiences like this one are not only offering a taste of Chiayi County, but also a new way for visitors to experience this rural community. There's one final stop in our trip to Chiayi, and it's one of the most unexpected landmarks in the country. A massive glass high heel. So what's it doing serving looks in rural Taiwan? Well, the county chief says there's a connection to Jiayi's past.
那时候没有自来水，所以喝地下水。那地下水里面有砷，那老百姓不晓得。那喝了以后，脚就变成有那种重金属的中毒所以变成要截肢。那里面讲说，有一个新娘她要嫁，所以她只有穿一只高跟鞋因为另外一只截肢了。
Inspired by the legend, they built a 17-meter tall landmark which can be used for weddings. It holds the Guinness World Record for the largest structure shaped like a high-heeled shoe.
If you ask people in Taiwan about Jiayi County, most people will tell you about the mountains of Alishan. But this trip has shown me so much more. There's this entrepreneurial spirit. People are returning to their roots, they're sharing their stories, and they're creating a future that past generations could never have imagined.
Devin Tsai, Joseph Wu, Peachy Zhuang, and Andrew Ryan for TaiwanPlus.
You can find all the episodes in this series on our website at TaiwanPlus.com. And thank you for joining us tonight here on Taiwan Plus News. Again, head to our website to see more of our news reports or grab our app to get them directly on your mobile device. Finally, we leave you with images of an underwater dragon dance celebrating the Lunar New Year in Thailand. I'm Eric Gao. Take care. Have a great weekend.